Imagine standing there, in a big European square, and you look up at this clock, and it's ancient, like properly ancient. It would seem like pure magic back then.
Oh, absolutely. That's the Prague Astronomical Clock. It's the oldest one still working anywhere in the world, right in Prague, the heart of Europe.
And that's what we're digging into today, right? This feeling of wonder.
Exactly. We're going beyond just, oh, look, an old clock. We want to unpack its secrets, why it was made, what it all meant.
So the mission for you listening is to really get why this thing was such a big deal back then. What could people actually learn from it?
Yeah, and appreciate its legacy. It's this amazing mix of art, science, beliefs. We've got info from Prague's official guide, prague.eu, plus research articles digging into its history, and even one comparing it to a modern simulated clock.
Sounds like we might uncover some surprises, some real aha moments, maybe.
I think so, definitely.
Okay, let's jump into this medieval marvel. Our sources say it wasn't just, built on a whim. It came out of this real cultural boom time in Bohemia.
Right, under King Charles IV. He really turned Prague into a major European hub for learning and culture.
And it's fascinating that this clock was actually one of the last of the truly medieval astronomical clocks.
That's such a key point, because those early clocks, like Prague's, were different from the later Renaissance ones. Their main job wasn't really pinpoint accuracy for astronomy as we think of it.
So what was the main focus then?
It was primarily astrological, that big astrolabe dial at the center. That was the key. It was less about tracking planets perfectly and more about interpreting the heavens, for guidance.
So less science lab, more cosmic guide.
Sort of, yeah. It was about understanding your place in the universe, which they saw as divinely ordered, and making decisions based on how the stars seemed to be aligned. Totally different mindset from today.
And this wasn't hidden away somewhere, right? It was out in the open.
Exactly. Deliberately placed high up on the old town hall tower, smack bang in the middle of the main square. The guide really stresses this. It was meant to be part of daily life, not shut away in a church or monastery like some others.
For everyone to see.
For everyone. And the core of it all was that astrolabe. Our sources call it a rotating image of the heavens. It showed the sun, the moon, the stars, basically mapping out what they believed was, well, the realm of God.
So if you were living in medieval Prague, looking up at it wasn't just checking the time.
Oh, not at all. It was connecting you to the whole cosmos. It helped you figure out the time, sure, but also the day of the year, and crucially, whether the constellations were considered favorable or not.
Favorable for what?
For everything. Making predictions, making big decisions, even figuring out the best time for, say, medical treatments. It showed the astrological signs. It was like a cosmic weather forecast mixed with a planning tool, all in one incredibly complex machine.
Okay, let's break down this astrolabe a bit more. What could you actually see on it?
Well, there were lots of details. Below the horizon line, it showed the Earth's surface. And interestingly, there was this red color.
Red. What did that mean?
It represented the aurora, that reddish glow you get just before sunrise or after sunset. Then it faded into black for night. It's a really visual way of showing how they pictured the world.
That's really cool. And you mentioned before it showed 4 different kinds of time. How does that even work?
Right, 4 ways. First, you had planetary hours. Now, these weren't our standard 60-minute hours. They were unequal.
Unequal.
Yeah, their length changed depending on the season. Calculated from sunrise to sunset, shown by that golden sun symbol moving across. So daylight hours were divided into 12 chunks, basically, however long daylight lasted that day.
Wow, that sounds tricky to plan your day around.
Compared to now, yeah. Then there was Old Czech time. This used 24 equal hours, and here's the twist. The day started at sunset.
Sunset, not midnight.
Nope, sunset, marked by those golden Gothic numbers on a rotating ring. Apparently, Charles V brought this system from Italy, even before the clock was built. And originally, the hour was struck on a cymbalom.
A musical instrument. So the clock actually made music.
Well, it made a sound, yeah. A chime on the hour. So it wasn't just visual. Then the third type is what we'd recognize, German or semi-astronomical hours.
Ah, like our 12-hour clock.
Exactly. 12 hours from midnight, 12 from midday, marked with Roman numerals that came later, mid-16th century.
Okay, that makes sense. And the fourth?
That was sidereal time, added much later, 1865. It's used in astronomy. Think of it like the star's own clock time, running just a little bit faster than our solar day, about 23 hours and 56 minutes per rotation, shown by a little golden star on the zodiac ring.
4 clocks in one. Incredible. And there was something else too, right? An auxiliary table for astrology.
Yes, that table was key for the astrological side. It told you Which planet, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, was thought to rule each specific hour. Really important for predictions and choosing the right time for things.
Okay, so the top part, the astrolabe, is this crazy complex cosmic calculator. But then there's the calendar plate below it. What was that about originally?
Well, its main job back then wasn't just showing the date like the 15th. It mostly listed saints' names, and the dates were marked by their feast days.
So you knew the date by which saint's day it was.
Pretty much. And it had this clever thing called the Sunday letter. Depending on which letter the first Sunday of the year fell on, that letter would then mark all the Sundays for the whole year on the plate.
That is clever. A simple code for Sundays. And what was that other term? Sysiogenus.
Ah, the Sysiogenus. That was basically a rhyme, a mnemonic poem. It helped people memorize the important saints' days and other key dates throughout the year. Remember, not everyone could read, so rhymes were great memory aids.
A poetic calendar. I like that. So everything on this clock had layers of meaning.
Absolutely. And the calendar plate we see now isn't the original.
Right. It's a copy of one from the 19th century.
Exactly. Painted by Joseph Manis in 1866, a really famous Czech artist. The original Manis plate is safe in a museum now. His version is much more pictorial, with scenes of country life for each month, zodiac signs, the old town emblem.
But it still has the saints' names and stuff.
Oh yeah, it includes the saints, the day number, the Sunday letter, even syllables from the Sysiogenus. It connects back. Think about this. Even the official document from 1410, commissioning the clock, dated itself using a saint's day, Thursday before St. Havel. That really shows you how embedded this was in their culture.
So astrolabe for the heavens, calendar for the year, and daily life, it all fits together.
Perfectly.
Now, who actually built this incredible thing? We mentioned Charles V's era, but who are the hands-on creators?
Well, the 1410 charter is pretty clear. It names Master Mikuláš of Kadej as the builder, the guy who made the clock, and specifically the astrolabe.
Okay, Mikuláš of Kadej. But I thought there was another name often mentioned, Jan Hindel, an astronomer.
Oh, yes, that's an older theory. The idea was Hindel had the original concept. But our guide points out there isn't really solid proof for that, and some facts even contradict it. The charter really praises Mikuláš's skill. So Mikuláš seems to be the main man, definitely for the build and the mechanics.
Got it. But like any ancient monument, it didn't stay exactly the same over 600 years, right?
Not at all. It's been modified and repaired many times.
Yeah.
Around 1558, they added that sort of decorative canopy, very Renaissance style. And we know about later work because a clockmaker, Jan Taborski, kept a detailed logbook in the mid-1500s.
That's handy for historians. What about the figures that pop out, the apostles? When did they show up?
That's a bit debated, but the sources suggest sometime between, say, 1680 and 1733. There's this interesting idea linking them to Emperor Charles VI's coronation in 1723.
How so?
Well, Charles VI was very devoutly Catholic. The theory goes that maybe the town council wanted to add a very clear Catholic feature, the apostles' processing perhaps, to balance out the clock's older decorations, which lean more towards astrology and maybe weren't seen as strictly religious enough by everyone at that point.
Interesting. A bit of religious politics, maybe. Did everyone like that idea?
That's a great question. The sources we looked at don't detail any specific pushback, but it's easy to imagine there might have been discussions. What we do know is those original Baroque apostles vanish over time. Only 3 survive in the Prague City Museum.
So the ones we see aren't even the second set.
Nope. New ones, Neo-Gothic style, were added in 1865 by Edward Vesely, but then tragedy struck.
A war.
Yeah, the terrible fire in 1945 during the Prague uprising against the Nazis. It badly damaged the town hall and destroyed Vesely's apostles and the Minis calendar plate.
Oh, wow. So the current ones are even newer.
That's right. Sculpted after the war by Wojciech Suszarda, installed in 1948 when the clock was put back together.
It's amazing it survived at all. I read it was nearly scrapped at one point.
It was. Around 1787, it wasn't working well, and apparently they were seriously considering selling it off as scrap metal.
No!
Can you imagine?
No.
Luckily, a guy named Deputy Burgomaster Fisher stepped in and saved it. Phew, close call.
And then surviving in the 1945 fire, it really shows how much people valued it that they rebuilt it so carefully afterwards.
Absolutely. It was a massive restoration effort, new calendar copy, new apostles, the works. And that's when they also synchronized the hourly time to Central European time, the standard time we use.
Were there other changes later on?
A few tweaks. In 1966, some figures on the clock face were apparently altered slightly, like the figure of the Turk getting a spyglass, things like that. little updates.
And what's this about a golden ladder? Sounds intriguing.
That's a classic story of a happy accident. During work in 1866, someone messed up the size of the zodiac ring.
Oops.
Oops. To fix it, they had to add this extra metal hoop, and later some dividers were put on it, and that created this distinctive feature around the zodiac that looks sort of like a golden ladder or framework. It's now considered part of its charm, but it started as a fix for a mistake.
Making lemonade out of lemons or golden ladders out of measuring errors?
Pretty much. And the care continues. The guide mentions a big repair project in 2018.
What did they do then?
A lot of focus was on restoring the drive mechanism back to how it originally worked, using stone weights and hemp ropes, like the old days. And they also made the third copy of Manus's calendar plate. It's a constant process of preservation.
It's just incredible that this complex medieval machine is still ticking away. Now, shifting gears a bit, you mentioned research comparing it to a modern simulated clock designed for Belgrade.
Yeah, that research offers a really fascinating contrast. It helps us see the Prague clock through a modern engineering lens.
So how does this modern simulation compare? Are they basically the same idea?
Well, there are core similarities. The Belgrade simulation is also designed to show the average positions of the sun, moon, the zodiac, and crucially, the lunar nodes. And its face uses that same technique, stereographic projection, to map the sky onto a flat dial.
Okay, so same basic principle, but what's different? What are the upgrades, so to speak?
A key difference is that lunar node pointer. Lunar nodes are where the moon's orbit crosses the Earth's orbital plane. They're critical for predicting eclipses. The simulation has an explicit pointer for this.
Ah, so it's designed specifically to predict eclipses.
Exactly. The research makes a point of that. It also has a separate dial just for the moon phases, using a little rotating sphere, which gives a much clearer visual display than the Prague clock's moon pointer.
More specialized displays? What about accuracy? How does the old Prague mechanism stack up against modern calculations? This is where it gets really interesting, I bet.
It does. The research paper suggests that the Prague clock's underlying calculations, its approximations for the length of a sidereal day, or the time between high tides, or the cycle of moon phases are, well, less accurate than the simulated clocks.
How did the modern one achieve better accuracy?
Through math, basically. They use something called continued fractions to figure out the absolute best gear ratios possible within practical limits, how big the gears can be. This gives much better approximations of the actual astronomical cycles. They even mentioned the Prague clock's mechanism is comparatively much simpler.
So clever maths for better gears. Did they test this simulation?
Well, yeah. They set the initial positions based on a specific real astronomical event in 2020, then ran the simulation and compared its output to precise astronomical data called ephemeris data.
And how'd it do?
Pretty well. It successfully predicted things like a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse that happened shortly after their start date, mainly thanks to that lunar node pointer. The accuracy was considered quite good for a mechanical simulation.
That's impressive validation. Does the research suggest we could build even more accurate clocks like this?
Yes, they touch on future possibilities, using things like non-circular gears or complex gear systems called epicyclical trains. These could potentially account for the fact that the Moon and Earth don't move at perfectly constant speeds, leading to even higher precision in mechanical astronomical clocks.
Fascinating. So the spirit of the Prague clock, that mechanical representation of the cosmos, is still alive and evolving in engineering today.
Absolutely.
Okay, wow, that was quite a journey through time and mechanics. Let's try and sum up what we've covered in this deep dive.
Sure. So we started with the sheer awe of the Prague Astronomical Clock. We saw it's not just old, it's deeply rooted in medieval astrological worldview. Its complex dials showed multiple times, tracked the heavens.
Right, it was this blend of science, art, belief.
Exactly. We traced his history, Master Mikola, the changes, the additions, like the apostles, surviving near destruction and war.
Yeah, the fires, the repairs, even that golden ladder mistake.
Right. And then we contrasted it with that modern simulation, seeing how engineers today tackle similar challenges, but with advanced mathematics and aiming for higher astronomical accuracy, like predicting eclipses.
So pulling it all together, what's the big takeaway for us listening now? Why does this ancient clock still matter?
I think it's a powerful symbol. It represents this enduring human quest to understand our place in the cosmos, to map it, to make sense of it, using the best tools and knowledge we have at any given time. It shows us a world where the heavens were intimately woven into daily life, where science and belief weren't so sharply divided.
That's a great point. It kind of puts our own relationship with time and the universe into perspective, doesn't it? Seeing how differently they approached it.
It really does.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is something like this.
How does our modern way of tracking time, down to the nanosecond, and our vast scientific understanding of the universe, how does that compare to the worldview packed into that single intricate clock face in Prague? What do these incredible historical artifacts tell us about ourselves, about our relationship with time and the cosmos? And maybe, what kind of grand clocks, literal or metaphorical, might we build in the future to reflect our own understanding?
Definitely something to think about. If you get the chance, you should really look up pictures or videos of the Prague clock in action.
Oh, absolutely. Seeing the Apostles' Parade, the dials turn. It really brings history to life, a true marvel right there in Prague.